Alright, so I'm going to be going over Shadow Priest talents and how to set up your UI to be somewhat functional in Midnight in the pre-patch. Start things off, I'll just go over the edit mode. You go to your cooldown manager, click this stuff, go to advanced cooldown settings. You can track, pick which buffs you want to track. You can track bars and specifically you can or whatever you want. You can add power infusion and it'll show you the length of power infusion that you have. I have power infusion tracked here. It shows me how long it's active. That's enough for me. Spells, you can pick what essential cooldowns you want and the utility cooldowns. The utility cooldowns are just a lot smaller than the essential cooldowns. And at least on Shadow Priest, most of these I don't need another little tracker for. They're pretty much either instants that have no cooldown or the cooldown short enough to where I can just manage it myself. This is for Archon. This is my talent build. It's overall pretty standard, pretty similar to what we were rocking last season. When we get the next talent points, we'll get the improved disperse or increased forward, depending on what you're up against. The Shadow Word death damage and its cooldown reduced by 3 seconds is actually really nice. Or Shadowy Apparitions damage increased by 10, because I know the Apex talent has something to do with Shadowy Apparitions. I don't know exactly what it does though, but both of those seem like viable options if the talent is about Shadowy Apparitions. But overall, we're playing this. We dropped Energy Cycle to get more Apparitions, just because Apparitions don't do as much damage as they're going to do. Instead, we're picking up this for pre-patch. Void Volley damage increased and cooldown reduced by 4 seconds, meaning you're getting more Void Volleys off during your Void form and just doing more damage. When we get more Priest talents, we're going to get 3 more talent points. I'm going to be putting the points into Spell Warding and then increasing the damage of our spells by 3%. Not much else to really talk about in the Priest thing, other than we can talk about what we lost. Our roots are now passive. Our Shadow Fiend is now passive. Hmm. Void Swap is gone. Void Torrent, if you're Archon, is gone. It's 5 open keybinds for me in total that I don't like the feel of it. Shadow Priest is still performing pretty well, but I'm not having as much fun having 0 utility to help the team out. But standout talents are you want to take Power Infusion, you want Fear. Depending what you're up against, either Fear or Roots. The Roots, to me, at least right now, have been breaking almost instantly, so it just hasn't even felt worth playing. We get increased haste, Shadow or Death, reduce the damage death deals to us, Fade, improve Fade, reduce damage it takes, removing snares, increase our range. A lot of people I see aren't playing Angelic Bulwark, and they're opting for Focus Power right now, but at least if you ask me, I'd take the 3% damage loss and play Angelic Bulwark for the time being, just because it makes you a lot tankier when you need it. As for Halo, casting Halo creates another Halo every 5 seconds for 15 seconds. Manifested Power, which is just giving us Mind Flay Insanity. It feels bad that they took the double Devouring Plague into Mind Flay Insanity out of the game. Just feels like you're doing a lot less. Increase the damage of Mind Flay Insanity. Power Surge lasts another 5 seconds. That's an extra Halo you're getting. Resonant Energy. Damage by your Halo, taking more damage for 8 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Your damage dealt is 5% in Void form. You can't really pick otherwise. You can make Halo reduce their movement speed, but it just I'm really more into incessant screams, getting a double fear. If they trinket one, then they just get feared again, even though the DRs are shortened now. It's only 2 DRs, but getting that double fear really helps. Halo damage increased by 30%, or Halo extends the duration of Void Form up to 6 seconds as stored. That could be good, but I'm not entirely sure. I really just stick to the classic Halo damage increased because it pumps. And then Divine Halo, the apex, if you will, of the Archon tree. Getting into Shadow, we lost our Devouring Plague, which is now Shadow Word Madness. I macroed it to look like Devouring Plague because my brain just needs it. This is an interesting talent that they added, Invoke Nightmare. So instead of sh not Shadow Crash, but the Shadow Tentacle Slam, um, so now Vampiric Touch applies Shadow Word Pain, and it lasts 5 additional seconds, which just makes it easier to get your Shadow Word Pains up. It makes it easier to get your Shadow Word Pains up, and you have to press less buttons. I'm opting for Shadow Word Pain dealing a 150% increased damage, and you just have to manually press Shadow Word Pain on people. It's just one extra button to press, so I don't mind that. At least for Archon, I'm not playing Mind Blast gaining an additional charge. I was playing Shadowy Insight and Shattered Psyche over Instilled Doubt, but I wanted to give it a try. But this is the other way that I've been playing, and it's been performing well. The instant cast Mind Blasts are pretty nice. It does a good amount of damage, but at least not doesn't really matter during your burst window as much. So I just wanted to try Instilled Doubt, see how it performs. You're gonna want increased damage of Mind Flay. You're gonna want increased damage to Mind Flay and Insanity Generation. Tentacle Slam. I don't know. Like I feel like you need this talent, but Tentacle Slam doesn't really do a lot of damage. This could be dropped for something more useful, like Death Speaker or Death and Madness. Either get a double death or just Shadow Word Death dealing more damage. In fact, I might actually try that out. I'll see how that goes. Because Tentacle Slam doesn't do that much damage. It's really just get your dots up easier. We're playing Reduce the Insanity cost of Shadow Word Madness by 5 just to make it easier to get it out. Void Form. We're playing Void Form generates 60 Insanity and increases your spell damage by an additional 5%. Over casting Shadow Word Madness increases the duration of Void Form because every time it occurs, Void Form's effectiveness is reduced by 25%. And I'm just keeping Void Form active doesn't seem as important as more damage and more insanity. You want bigger burst and just getting the insanity up front. Um, Otherwise, we're playing Idol of Cthulhu, Crushing Void, Maddening Tentacles. It now applies Shadow Word Madness, 25% effectiveness. It's not the greatest, but it's just more applications of Shadow Word Madness. And then this, the Tentacle Slam damage makes me really not care too much for it, but the Void Volley damage is important, and then you get an additional Void Volley for 30 seconds after Void Form ends, so it's just a little extra burst. Insidious Ire has been a talent that's been back and forth. Um, it gets nerfed like every expansion so far because it's just too strong. But we're playing that, 2 points in that, 2 points in Screams of the Void. And Tormented Spirits is your Shadow Word Pain is a chance to create Shadow Word apparitions that float towards your targets affected by your Vampiric Touch. So this is just more apparitions. Apparitions are fun. I'm sad that they took it away from Mind Blast because I loved filling the field with apparitions. This is the most gimped Shadow Priest has felt in a long time for me. And then Mastermind increased the crit damage, Mind Blast, Mind Flay, and Shadow Word Death by 8%, and their crit damage by 40%. I'm not sold on Death Speaker or Death and Madness. Oh, it's only you only get the double death when it fails to kill somebody below 20, so it's not as good as I thought. But getting the bump benefit of Shadow Word Death at 35% is pretty nice. So we will try this out. Because, like I said, the Tentacle Slam damage, even at 300% increased effectiveness, has not done much for me. It's always at the very, very bottom of my damage meter. So we'll try this out. As for PvP talents, we're playing Psyfiend. It's kind of a must. It's your Mortal Strike. Phase Shift, also kind of a must. Dodging things with Fade. And then Cascading Horrors is something I like. It's just extra CC, especially after we lost most of our CC. Though Psychic Shroud is interesting. It basically is Nullifying Shroud, but whenever you press Fear, you get a Nullifying Shroud. I'm not sure if that gives you two when you double Fear, or if it's only the first Fear that you press. Mind Games is an option, because people aren't dispelling as much of what they need to. They're not paying as much attention. They don't have the weak auras to tell you when Mind Games is on them. So it could be viable again. Mind Trauma is also something that is interesting. Getting haste whenever you fully channel Mind Flays. It just gives you more haste, more damage, faster casts. And this is interesting, but it just makes everything not line up very well. But this is pretty standard of what I've been playing, at least in War Within. Is pretty similar as I can get. So let's try out the burst. Well, Tentacle Slam, Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Pain, Void Form, Halo, Power Infusion, Void Volley, Death, Void Volley. Make sure we keep our Shadow Word Pains up. That's the one thing you gotta do now, is just pay attention to your Shadow Word Pains. I mean, we do 1,000,000 damage in our burst. It's damage the DPS is kind of messed up. I was hitting 31k DPS when I was testing this earlier, about 31, 30 something, 32. But the DPS meter's just not working right, and it's saying I'm doing 1.6k DPS and somehow doing 1,000,000 damage. So that's basically it. You throw your Psyfiend in there, you throw a Silence out on the healer, and or depending on what you're fighting, you silence them. And that's pretty much Shadow Priest in a nutshell. It's very simplified, very gutted. It's performing okay, but it just doesn't feel as satisfying to play anymore, I have to say. But I hope that helps someone get into Shadow Priest. Or if you're undecided on some talents, maybe it helps you pick some talents.